Trying to think what else that I want to mention. So yeah, highly recommend using, make sure Word's great, works well. I do want to show you what it looks like if you're doing it from Google Scholar. Because all the databases, they're great. You can do bulk. I could send as many citations as I need. Google Scholar is wonderful. It really is, but it does not allow you to send stuff in bulk, which means if I find 30 articles I want to use in cite in Google Scholar, I'm going to have to send them over individually, citation by citation. But it will do it though, which usually I only send stuff from databases. But let's say you're working on something and you cannot find the full citation in any of the databases and you don't want to manually type it into your EndNote. Look it up in Google Scholar to see if you can send it first before you try to manually add it. So you'll just use the little quote button. And if you scroll all the way down, it's got EndNote. So I'd click that and it automatically creates my EndNote file. And it's actually in the EndNote format. So when you're in your EndNote desktop or online version, you would just have to tell it. It's actually an EndNote import. So you just do EndNote import because it's in the EndNote file format. So that works really well. Also though, let's say for example, I don't know, maybe you tried to pull this in and it gave you an error message. Again, RefMan, RIS will work every time. I've never had it not work. So that's always a good backup in case you need it. But yeah, so Google Scholar, not great for doing bulk, but let's say it's not in Google Scholar, maybe it's an older article or it's a book and you have to manually add it to your EndNote. So with that, you'll click the new reference button. And it's going to ask you what reference type is this, and you'll just pick the one that's closest to what your item is. All kinds of different ones. I'm just going to do journal article. And when you pick this, it just gives you the most likely information that you'll need. Again, you probably won't need to fill out every single one of these, but with citations, you want to fill out as much as you can. So just add in what you can, and then you'll save it, and then it'll exist. But again, you have to type it out individually, so I highly recommend just try to see if you can find it in Google first, because it just saves you a little bit of time. And then also, every time you have to manually add one in, there's a good chance you'll type something wrong. Just, human error. If you import it, better chances of everything being correct. All right, let's see. Also, one thing with EndNote does, every time you edit something or add something or delete something, EndNote is not going to let you do this without being sure of it. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? Or do you want to save this? And it's going to do it every time, which can be annoying, but also it keeps you from accidentally deleting a lot of stuff that you maybe didn't mean to. But just, just be prepared for that. It's going to ask you are you sure you want to do this? All the time. Some other things I don't know if everybody knows about EndNote. It does have a match tool, and this is really useful. Your paper's written or your abstract's written and you're trying to figure out, maybe it's a new topic you're working on and you don't really know the journals in that specific topic really well. You can put in your title, copy and paste your abstract, and then actually list out the group that your citations were in, which is again a reason why I recommend putting everything in a group, because you can't imprint these citations if you don't have them in a group. But then it's going to look for journals that have the topics that show up in your title abstract, journals that have citations similar to the citations you're using, and it will suggest some. It's not, it's not 100% great. It is a nice tool. I use it a lot with students more than anything, because it just kind of gives them a good idea of what's out there if they're interested in trying to publish. but it is definitely something I would suggest to look at. All right, let's see. Last thing on the online one, maybe you just need a quick bibliography for something. Maybe like you're working on a project with other people and you need maybe, or it's a journal club or something, you need, here's all the citations articles we need to read. So I would, again, gotta pick my group. Let's do this one. It's gonna ask what format you want or what style. With this one, I honestly always just do HTML. Then you can save it, email it. I always just preview and print it because it pops it up. And then I can copy and paste it wherever I need to go, which is usually in an email. But here they all, APA format, just a quick way to get a really quick bibliography if you need to send that to someone else. Yeah, I really like APA formatting. I'm a fan. It's easier to read than all the other ones, I think. All right, so let's exit out of that. All right, question.
I tell my students they have to use APA formatting because it's the only format I know well.
Yeah, I really like being able to see authors' names when I'm reading my paper. I don't want to have to like scroll down to the footnotes or scroll down to the last.
Yeah.
That's probably just me though. But any questions for me?
Thank you, Rachel. I was wondering if you could sort of walk through a recommended workflow for two people or multiple people collaborating. So let's say I'm writing a paper, I put in my 5 references, I send it to you, you put in your 5 references, send it back to me. How does that work without wanting to kill yourself?
Yeah, so it's not 100% great. It really isn't. I honestly usually recommend like one person be like the main person in charge. Honestly, because I've seen sending Word documents back and forth or sending them through like Google just back and forth, it gets corrupted.
Yeah, it seems like it gets into a lot of trouble.
It gets corrupted. So honestly, what I always recommend, have one person. So do your Word document, you're writing back and forth. Just have everybody, when they cite something, I always just have them type the author last name and the date. And then at the end, you can go through and actually add in the citation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working with a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some luck, as long as it's not too many, so maybe 3. As long as you're really careful about, okay, I've added my 5 in, I'm gonna send it to you, and you make sure that you just follow in a strict order. I've had that work, but everybody does need to have the same version of EndNote, which can be also the problem.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, having the same version, super important. It used to be like, oh, if you have the last 3 versions, they all work really well together. They've updated this latest version so much that it does not work well with the other versions.
Gotcha.
But if you all use the EndNote online, that should be okay because that is the same version. But if you have people with like the desktop and the online, same version is important.
Yeah, I get that.
Rachel, it looks like that you can share a group with other EndNote users. I wonder if that would, like if Ipek and I are both writing together and maybe she's kind of got the main document, at least if we're sharing the same group of references, then it would be easy for her to pull in any references that I'm adding.
So there's 2 different ways you can share. Again, those 2 different ways are depending on which version you have. If you have the desktop version, you can share your entire library. So I could share all 16,000. Again, this is where I say, think about that before you do it. Because you could share this with other people and they could delete everything you've got. I mean, probably not intentionally. Somebody is calling me. So be careful with sharing your whole library. But the online version lets you share individual groups, which is a much safer alternative. So it's really easy. You'll just have to, have your files in your group, and you need to know the email account that they used for their EndNote. And you're just adding your EndNote, and then they're going to get an email said this has been shared with you, and then you can also only allow them to read it, or you can give them read and write privileges, which means they can edit, delete, and add citations. And it's easy to get here on your EndNote. It's under organize and manage my groups. And it's gonna list all your groups up, and then you can share. And when if somebody shares or references with, or shares their group with you, if you're on your home, my references page, you scroll all the way to the bottom, and that's where those are gonna live. Same thing if somebody shares, like since I have the desktop version, somebody shared their EndNote online with me, their group, again, it's still gonna be down at the very bottom. And you can see I've got more on this one. So you can share. So. But yeah, I definitely recommend online sharing versus sharing your whole library.
Yeah.
I've had stuff deleted. Again, nobody's fault, but like their computer crashed and then it accidentally deleted everything. And
Sure. Yeah. But I can imagine if I've got a couple of co-authors to have a kind of a common pool of references would be super helpful.
yes, so that works really well. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else.
If you could you show how to export your library or a portion of your library so that you could import it to another citation manager?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
So honestly, the easiest way, this is what I'm going to say, RIS works the best with this. So if I need to, I always have to remember where that button is. So it's under format. You do to export references. Again, you'll need stuff to be into a group, of course. Groups are really important in EndNote. So you'll pick your group that you need. And then honestly, I would always just use the RIS because that one will work. Zotero can read that, Mendeley can read that. So do the RIS and I'll just save it as a text file. And then you just import that text file into Zotero or Mendeley. You can also export citations into like an Excel format by using the tab. It's not great though. There's a lot of editing you have to do, but it is doable. Sometimes you just need stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. So that's another option if you need to export stuff out. But yeah, RIS is always going to be your best bet. EndNote export is really good if you know they have EndNote. You could just do an EndNote file. But I always use RIS. Also, I use RIS if you're using any kind of screening software like Rayon, which is open source, or Covidence, which is the big systematic review paid one. To get your citations into those screening programs, they always are going to tell you upload your RIS format, file format. So again, this is the best one to use for all of that, exporting to anything RIS.
Great, thank you very much.